So this happened this past spring when I was working front desk at a hotel. I worked the afternoon shift from 3 to 10 p.m., so I got mostly people checking in. I actually loved my job, but this was the first time I had ever worked at a hotel and the first time I had ever experienced something like this, so it really put me more on guard. That night, we had 2 rooms left available. I was trying to sell those last 2 rooms quickly so that we could just be sold out for the night. To clarify, for anyone who is unfamiliar with the hotel industry, usually front desk agents are authorized to discount rooms if it means it will bring in more business. Not over-the-top discounts, but my boss personally trusted us to use discretion. Anyways, so these 2 dudes walk in around 7 or 7:30. By this time, it was only me and 1 maintenance dude on duty, but I didn't know where the maintenance guy was. Essentially, it was just me on duty at the front desk. These guys looked normal. 2 younger guys, dressed really nice. They asked for the room prices, and we were running pretty pricey that night. So one of the dudes says he is going to run out and call his buddy to see if that price was okay. I wanted these rooms gone, so I start negotiating with the other guy. He is talking me down, and I am being fairly generous with my offers of discounts. Finally, I say, "Alright, I will give you X price if you guys give us your business tonight," or something along those lines. After I said that, he got kinda closer to me and said,
"Wow, you really want us here tonight, don't you?"
I was shocked at the flirty change in tone, but blamed myself for phrasing it that way. I don't remember my response, but right then, the friend came back in, and the guy I was with just told them that I had given them a discount, and they checked in. Then, the friend kinda wandered up to the room, while the other guy hung around until his friend was gone. Then things started to get weird. He told me the only reason he agreed to stay here wasn't because of the discount, but actually because he thought I was hinting that I wanted to hang out with him, and I wanted him to stay. He kept asking when I was off, over and over. I just stayed professional and said that I had a boyfriend, which I did, and wasn't interested. He finally gave up and went up to his room. About half an hour passed, and all of a sudden, while I was on the phone, he wandered back down into the lobby wearing PJs. He sat down on the couches opposite me and just sat on his phone and kept looking up at me and smiling. I pretended to be very busy on this phone call, and when they hung up, I called the hotel phone from my cell phone and pretended to be on the phone for a second. That backfired when I got another actual phone call. It was a wrong number, and I hung up, which was when he made his move. He asked for my number, and then proceeded to tell me he wanted me to come up to his room after this shift. No. Then he asked if I wanted to meet after work and smoke weed with him. I kept saying no, I had a boyfriend, and his response was always,
"Well, he ain't here, girl. It's just us right now."
I was thoroughly creeped out at how relentless he was. I finally got the balls to tell him to leave me alone, or I'd have to call security. This pissed him off apparently, and his tone changed 180 degrees. He got really defensive, and said he was just trying to get to know me. Then he started aggressively climbing and reaching over the counter to try and grab me. I screamed, and that made him even angrier. He yelled,
"Shut up, bitch."
and at that moment, a family came out of the pool area. It spooked him, and he ran out into the parking lot. The family saw I was breathing heavy, and had seen the guy run, so they stood with me while I called my maintenance guy to come. We eventually called the cops, and my manager, and after looking at the security tapes and hearing my story, they kicked him and his friend out. I was scared of those dudes for a while after that. I really hope we don't meet again. This actually happened to my mom back in the early 80s, right after she got married. She told me this story a very long time ago, and I just remembered it out of nowhere the other day, so I figured I would share it with everyone. So one night they were sleeping, early in their marriage. They left their window open as this was back in Fiji, and it's super hot there, even at night. So they were sleeping, and my mom felt his hand touching her face, like caressing it. She was half asleep and figured it was my dad touching her, but the caressing didn't stop, and it was getting kind of annoying to her, so she opened her eyes and was going to tell my dad to stop, when she realized that my dad was sound asleep and facing the other way. The window was right above their heads, so she looks up, and it was pretty dark, but she could make out an arm that was sticking in through the window. She was like, "What the fuck?" and screamed and woke up my dad, but as soon as she screamed, whoever was outside took his hand back and ran away. My dad and uncles ran outside to catch the guy, but it was too late. He was gone. So let's just say they put a screen window in and moved the bed so it was not under the window anymore. I am a 22-year-old female, but this happened when I was 13. I will start off with some necessary background information. When I was 13, my aunt lived in a huge apartment complex with 150 plus units within the same city as my mom and dad. I would visit her all the time just to spend time with her. Her complex had a great park and swimming pool. I was also very close to some of the neighborhood kids that were around my age. This was during the summer of 2007. I was going to 7th grade that year, and this was the summer I stayed with my aunt to get out of my house. My aunt's apartment was on the bottom floor, on the very back corner of her building. The buildings in this complex were surrounding the park and pool I frequented to create a sealed-off community with 2 exits to the main road. The buildings were 3 stories high, with 6 apartments on each level, all connecting to an outside corridor which connected to the stairs. Now that that's cleared up, here's what happened. It was a particularly sunny day at the complex, so I decided I was going to go outside and see if any of my friends were outside so I could hang out with them instead of wasting the day away inside. I changed into shorts and a t-shirt. I dressed way more tomboyish back then, and headed out of my aunt's apartment, made my way down the corridor, came from underneath the stairs, and began walking to the park. I had only made it halfway when I hear,
"Hey, you."
loudly, from a corridor 3 stories up. I look up and see a face, but can't make it out. I could tell it was a male, but his voice sounded like a kid's voice, and he looked like a kid from where I was. I pointed to myself and shouted back, "Me?" He said,
"Yeah, you. Can you come up here for a minute?"
I stopped for a minute to think about the situation. My 13-year-old mind just chopped it up that he was one of the neighborhood kids wanting to talk or something. So without another thought, I headed up the stairs towards where I saw him. I finally get up there to see a man, around 35 or 40, sitting on the steps waiting for me. He is dressed in a striped polo shirt, khaki shorts, and those sandals that make you think of Jesus. He seriously looks like an oversized 5-year-old. As soon as I saw him, I had a gut feeling of dread. I'm sure my face looked confused, and I blurted out, "What do you want?" He starts gawking about my hair, and asks me why I dress the way I dress, and keeps suggesting I should go in his apartment so he could show me around. The creepiest thing is how he looked at me when he suggested it. It was the creepiest expression I've ever seen someone make. The expression is hard to explain, but it led me to believe, even at 13, he had sinister plans once in the apartment. I quickly said that my aunt was expecting me, and that I needed to get back to her apartment or she'd come looking for me and I'd be in trouble. He then tried to ask what number apartment it was and if he could escort me there. I was shocked at the thought of that. I hastily said no, and that I could make it there on my own, but thank you anyway. He just looked at me with a blank stare for a few seconds, like he was thinking of what to do or say next. Then, his facial expression was now clearly disappointed, and before he could say anything else, I sprinted down the stairs and ran back into my aunt's apartment. I didn't know if he had seen where I went. I didn't know if he followed. All I know is, I didn't give him the chance to play out his sadistic intentions, whatever they were. I told my aunt, since she had seen me lock all the doors on the door and the screen door. She called the cops and I made a statement. But since he never touched me or physically harmed me, there wasn't much they could do about the situation. I made sure to never go upstairs anymore unless I for sure knew the person, and had to stay away from the area where his apartment was for the rest of the summer. I don't know what could have happened had I not thought on my feet and sit up on those stairs longer than I did. So apartment creeper from my teenhood, let's not meet again, ever.